One big thing about all this that I really should mention is an inspection. If you're going to do a service on your vehicle, it's a perfect time to get a look at everything, and I mean everything. Look at all the bushings. In fact, you can actually see my lower ball joints there are looking a little dry rotted, a little cracked. I've just been keeping an eye on those just because they're such a pain in the butt to change. Same thing with tie rod ends, CV boots, bushings, all this stuff. It's a perfect time. And look for oil leaks, abnormal oil leaks, coolant leaks, any of this stuff that could potentially be a problem in the future. Also, go up under the drive shaft and shake it a little bit and check around for any looseness there. You're looking for loose parts, you're looking for worn out parts, you're looking for basically problems before they happen. That's kind of the idea with the maintenance. Check the exhaust, look for leaks. If you see black sooty spots around joints or just around different areas of the exhaust, that's a good indication that you may have a leak in that area. That's something you might need to address. This way you can sort of make yourself a little checklist of things that might be coming up in the future, and it's just a little bit of forewarning. So in a way, a maintenance is a real good way to get to know your vehicle and get to know what its idiosyncrasies are, how it's put together, that kind of thing. So you get intimate with it, and that's a good thing. It's good to be intimate with your vehicles, in a good way.
Also, while you're at it, get in there, shake the wheels back and forth at top and bottom and side to side, and feel for any looseness there. Do that on all four wheels. Check your tires. Is there abnormal wear? Check your tire pressure. Make sure those are at the proper pressure. If you do see abnormal wear in a tire, it could indicate an alignment problem or something like that. These tires are brand new as of last week, so I'm really not concerned about them. If you wonder where to set your tire pressures, or you've got a better idea, think again. Because usually on the door jamb or in the glove box or someplace like that, they show you exactly how much pressure should be in there. And in this case, there's 32 in the front and 34 in the back.
Something else you'll notice here is the pressure for the spare tire is also listed. During a service, it's an excellent idea to go back and top off your spare tire. I actually did this the other week and I forgot to show it in this video, but it's something that you should check and something that I have done. I just didn't make it into the video.
Something else to do during our major service is I would just replace the wiper blades. Now with Hondas, you can often replace the inserts. I went with these Amco blades that I'm actually becoming quite fond of. I spoke about that in the winterizing video. And this Element has a rear wiper blade also, so you might want to just replace those just as a preemptive thing. I wouldn't even bother inspecting them. I usually replace them about every 6 months, every time the season changes, like spring and fall. During your inspection, it's also a good idea to check all of your lights, both in the front and the back, your turn signals, reverse lights, your brake lights, all those lights, just to make sure those are all working. Okay, before we start with the coolant, I'm going to remove the radiator cap. And for the same reasons that I removed the dipstick from the transmission, I'm doing this so that the coolant itself will drain out much easier. Located up under the center here of the front bumper, so go from the front license plate almost straight back. You'll see the drain for the radiator, and you'll see a little hole there. And hopefully all the stuff will come out that little hole. But that's what we're going to do. We're just going to turn that little petcock counterclockwise, and sometimes you might need to get a pair of pliers or something. In fact, that's what I might need to do here in order to get this loose. But be very careful, it's plastic, you don't want to break it. So just knock this loose and allow the coolant to drain out there until it stops draining. That's all I do. Once again, it's the same thing as the transmission fluid. I don't feel the need to get absolutely every drop of coolant out of the vehicle. I'm getting at least 50% by draining just the radiator. I'm going to be happy with that. And as long as I do that on a regular basis, I believe that's good enough. If you want to go the extra mile and pull the plug out of the back of the block and drain the block also, great. Or if you're doing a water pump's going to pretty much drain the majority of the block anyway. So that's the philosophy and the school of thought that I'm coming from. But you can do what you like, but this is what I do. Just using a pair of channel locks for this, by the way. Once again, don't get crazy. Just need to knock it loose. There we go. Aftermarket radiators, well, you're on your own. Get my drain pan under there. And drain.
let's go do something else while that's happening. All right, while the coolant's draining, I'm going to fill up the transmission. I'm using Honda's automatic transmission fluid, the DW1, and I would suggest that that is the only thing you ever put into a Honda transmission. And it takes 3 quarts. I just dump it in. So as far as quantity, on every Honda automatic that I've ever run into, pretty much takes 3 quarts. And do make sure that you've got that down inside the transmission. If not, it gets messy. Quite simply, after that's all down in there, just remove your funnel, reinsert your dipstick / plug. Another thing is to pull off 4 wheels, rotate the tires, and while you've got them off, once again, continue that inspection. Look at the struts, check for leaks. If it's wet up in here, the strut is leaking and probably needs to be replaced. Personally, I'd recommend you use Honda struts. They're expensive, but nothing rides like the Honda struts in my experience. Once again, I've got a little bit of dry rot here, but look around and see what you can see. If you see anything abnormal, bushings, once again, that kind of thing. But mainly, what I'd like to show you is something we used to do at the dealership called servicing the brakes. We used to do this a lot more before they started cutting labor times and things like that, but it basically, you go through and well, I'm about to show you. But the idea behind this is, 1, you get a really good brake inspection, and 2, if you got any noises or any issues with the brakes or whatever, it just makes the brakes work better. It's just what I've experienced. Now, do this to all 4 wheels. I just did this the other week just for the heck of it, but I'm going to go through just to show you the process for this video. Okay, the process goes like this. This is a 12mm fastener that holds this bottom bolt on, and all I do is take the bottom bolt out, because you don't really have to take the top one out. Once you've got that removed, you can flip the caliper up like so, and slide it off of the upper pin like that. And lay it up on the top. Don't let it hang by the brake hose. These Element brake pads, which I have very recently changed, have these little spring clips that go in here like this. Don't lose them. Take the brake pads out, and I just smack them together. Now, be careful. You don't want to breathe in brake dust. It's not good for you. Even the newer stuff, it's just not good for you to breathe in. Next thing I do is I will spray each of the little brackets where the brake pads come into contact with. A little bit of brake clean. For those of you that don't have aerosols, you can use the pump type of brake clean, same as what I'm showing here. And then I just take my rag with my finger and I just clean out those areas where the brake pads come into contact with the caliper. I'll then remove the lower pin, grab the boot, sort of pinch the boot when you do that, and then you can pull the whole thing out. And then I will clean it off. I just did this not long ago. I will also clean off the pin on the upper caliper, or the upper pin on the caliper. Then, I know all the time I tell you silicone paste. It doesn't have to be this 3M stuff, but seek out silicone paste. It's hard to find. I'll put a link in the description to something to where you can find some online, but it seems to be difficult for a lot of people to find at their auto parts stores. But these things can be found online, and I use this silicone paste extensively. But I'll paint just a little bit on the pin, and then I'll reinstall it. You don't want to use grease for this. And the main reason you don't want to do that is because grease is made of petroleum. Well, so is this rubber here. Those two things get together, this rubber will swell up and cause this pin to seize. You don't want that. So silicone paste for this, okay? I really insist upon that. Not a lot of things I insist upon, but I insist upon that. And also, you don't need to coat it so thick that it's really thick. Next I'll go and I'll clean off the ends of the brake pads where they make contact with the caliper. And then I will take anti-seize. Now with anti-seize, I'm using the copper colored anti-seize. You can use the silver colored anti-seize for this. And the anti-seize really isn't as important as far as the type. But then I'll just paint the ends where the brake pads come into contact with the caliper. Basically, I'm trying to lube things up so that as the caliper works and the brake pads work, it is able to release properly and apply properly, and evenly is the other thing. So this only takes about 2 seconds a wheel. Now I can reinstall my pads and my springs. And with these springs, sometimes you have to hold the brake pad like this in order for them to stay in place. Not a big deal. Reinstall your caliper. And I take, and I already have done it, that you can probably see here, just a small amount of anti-seize on the threads of these bolts. When I say small, I mean small. Just a little bit. Also, when you're reinstalling these, make sure you've got the pin in a good orientation, because if not, you can put this part into a bind, you're not going to be able to install it properly. Poof, you're done. Now go and do that to the other 3 wheels.
Now we're down to one of our last fluids here, and that is the rear differential fluid. If you have an all-wheel drive model, either CRV or Element, they both share the same chassis as I mentioned. And these are very similar to the transmission in that they just take a 3/8 ratchet on the inside of them. And to break them loose, once again, make sure they're all the way down in there. And I get yelled at if I don't break the fill loose first, because if you break the drain loose first and you can't get the fill loose, then you can't fill it and blah, blah, blah. So I hope everybody's happy that I did it that way. And quite simply, I remove the fill first, because once again you do that and that gives you a little bit of air coming in, which allows it to drain a little better. There we go. And this is also important that we actually have all 4 wheels up off the ground. And why this is important is because we want to be able to set the level properly. Lower drain plug out. The suspense is killing me. Whoa, there it is. Okay, now on these, you may note that there is no magnet or anything like that, so it doesn't really matter as much. But with great pride, I'm going to show you that I will be installing new crush washers on both the drain and fill plugs on this here differential. Now, while that's draining, I'll tell you a little story about this differential, in that it's really super dependent on the fluid that's in it. In fact, you'll see this DPSF, that's this dual pump fluid from Honda. You really can't use anything else, and I mean you can't use anything else. It's not like there is a substitute. And the reason for this is the way this differential works is it works because of the fluid. And what happens is there's always power going to this rear differential. But as the wheels start to slip, what happens is it causes friction inside of here. And that friction causes this fluid to change its viscosity. And as it changes its viscosity, it actually causes the clutches to lock up and causes the rear wheels to engage. So for the most part, when you're driving around with one of these vehicles, it's a front wheel drive vehicle until things start to slip. And as they start to slip, that's when it starts sending power to the rear wheels. And the whole reason it does that is because of the type of fluid that's in here. So there is no shortcut. Do not pass go, any of that stuff. Just replace it with dual pump fluid, and that's it. And once again, we don't have to
concern ourselves with that getting absolutely every dropout, but you know what? If it's your vehicle and you feel like getting absolutely every dropout, more power to you. I will not stop you. I will never stop you for going farther than I go. Never, ever. I might say that, hey, I don't do it, but that's not going to stop me from telling you. That's not going to make me tell you not to. Once again, just snug it. And also, I will reiterate that we are all four wheels up off the ground level. Okay, something I found is that if you get bottles of differential fluid, they come with a little thing like this, and you can snip the top. And I have found out that you can actually take one of these, put it on top of a dual pump fluid thing here, and you can actually get most of your fluid in this way. You can just sort of ratchet it up in. Oops, I have to turn that around the other way. So you can just slip most of it up in this way. Excuse me. And this takes roughly about 1.5 quarts, so you're going to need 2 quarts to do this. There we go. And there's still some in this one, but that's okay. And you just keep filling it up until it runs out that fill hole. Once it runs out that fill hole, you've reached the required level. Also, if you get some rear end noise, a lot of times, you know, like some noise from this rear differential, a lot of times all you have to do is change this fluid. This fluid doesn't often get changed, and if it hasn't been changed in some time, a lot of times what you'll get is you'll get some noise from the rear end. Whoa. I might have reached maximum fill here. And I have. Just gonna let that drain a little bit. Then I'll install my plug here and we'll be done. But yeah, people, please, only use the Honda fluid here. You really can't shortcut this. I'm gonna get some brake clean to clean that up with. Be sure to dispose of your old fluids properly. We have this big drum back here in the back of the shop. And my landlord actually uses it to burn in his waste oil heater. But there are different places that collect this stuff, but don't dump this down storm drains or in the backyard or stuff like that. Make sure you dispose of it properly. Okay, well, our coolant has finished draining. So I'm gonna reach up and tighten this up. You don't need to tighten it by hand, you don't need the pliers. And now we can fill that system up. It's now time to fill up our coolant. Before I forget, I'm also gonna top off the windshield washer fluid. All right, now I need to fill up my coolant. But the way this radiator is, it's down inside here, and I may not be able to use my spill-free funnel, which it would be disappointing, but not the end of the world. What I'm going to try, though, is I'm going to try to remove this upper cover here and just see that if I can get down in there, because if I can, it's a win. If not, well, I will just slip a pan underneath here and bleed the cooling system that way. But imperative that you bleed the cooling system whenever you drain coolant out. If not, you get an air pocket in there, could have an overheat, your heat's not going to work right, that kind of thing. You must. Anytime you open a cooling system, bleed the cooling system out, bleed the air out. Not going to work. Well, at least you get a clear view of the radiator. Just going to slide my coolant pan under there. Catch any excess that might drip out. There's no bleeder valve on the K series, so I'm just going to top it off. I'm going to try not to top it all the way off to the top. Now, this takes the Honda blue coolant, but I found this Beck-Arnley stuff actually here. I found this Beck-Arnley stuff that actually works pretty good, that is a little less expensive, so that might be a nice alternative for you.
But the bleeder valve, you don't need a bleeder valve on that engine. It's just there to make filling the system easier. Okay, I've gone over this in other videos, and the idea is you want to turn the cooling fan or the blower fan off. You want to turn the heat all the way to hot, and you will start to leave the AC and all that stuff off, and you can leave your circulate off too, for that matter. And then you start and run the engine at about 2,500 RPM until the cooling fans come on, and that's the basic premise. So it's not that difficult, but very necessary in order for you to complete the service. So now we'll start the engine. Okay, I'm going to let it stabilize a little bit before I actually start raising the RPM, let it warm up. And then once I do that, I'm just going to reach down here and basically work the throttle when I do that. And then I'll hold it at that RPM until the cooling fans come on. And it may come bubbling out here, but I've got my pan ready to catch stuff. And don't forget to top off the overflow. Okay, well, I think that about covers it. What I did today was pretty much the major service. This covers just about every single thing that you would encounter in a service. And then it's broken up into minor services based on mileage. And once again, all this stuff can be found in the owner's manual as far as what it is, but this covers a lot of the bullet points. The only thing this video does not cover, which I will cover in the next video, is the cabin air filter replacement. Other than that, I can't really think of much else that you would encounter as far as the service is concerned on one of these vehicles. Basically, the idea of the service is to put your eyes on things and get an idea, an assessment of where your vehicle is, and also to renew all those parts that are wear items. And as vehicles have gotten newer, there is less and less of those wear items. I mean, you used to replace like a distributor cap and rotor and some wires and fuel filters and things like that, but those things have all kind of gone away as sort of a move by the manufacturers to bring down maintenance costs. So that helps you as far as not having to shell out a bunch of money to buy a bunch of parts when you do one of these maintenances. But the fluids are important, and I tried to along the way tell you what fluids were important to use as far as original equipment goes, and what fluids you could get away with as far as aftermarket stuff. So there are certain things you can get away with and certain things you can't get away with, but away we go. The idea, put your eyes on everything, especially like I said, those lights and the wiper blades. You might as well just replace the wiper blades. I've recently just replaced mine. So I don't really feel the need to do that. Same with the oil change, that kind of thing. And my tires are brand new. So my Element right now, I just hit the reset button, and I'm pretty happy about it. I am Eric the Car Guy. I hope this information was helpful to you. You can always find me at EricTheCarGuy.com, where you can submit your automotive questions. Just type in a couple of keywords into the search function at the top of the page, and something might come up. But if you can't find anything there, feel free to sign up for the site and head over to our forum and submit your question to the service and repair section, and we will be happy to give you an answer. Other than that, you can find me at Google+, Facebook, and Twitter. And as far as those other videos I mentioned, I'm going to put links in the description to those so that you can easily find them should you be looking for them. Anyway, I close with be safe, have fun, and of course, stay dirty. And thank you for watching. I will see you next time.